Okay, so I believe we are now live on YouTube. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cabinet on the Monday, the 5th of October. Can I please remind everyone, if you would like to speak, if you've got a question at any time, to use the technology to raise your blue hand so that I can see you and know that you would like to join us. Okay, right. I only have one apology that I'm aware of this morning, Emma, and that is Councillor Nigel
Lloyd.
Councillor Lloyd, yes, he has made it.
Councillor Lloyd is unable to join us this morning. Do we have any other apologies?
No, I haven't received any further apologies.
Thank you. So can we move to the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of September, please? And does anyone have any comments on those minutes? Councillor Dixon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, and good morning, everyone. I just have one observation. I attended that meeting and the commentary through the meeting confirms that, but I seem to be missing under the members also attending. So I wonder if I might be added to that, please.
Yes, of course. I have Councillor John Toy, who also needs to be added to the attendance list, so I'll update that.
Thank you very much. Any other matters arising from the minutes? In which case, can I have a proposer for acceptance of the minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Hayman. And Councillor Seward, are you prepared to second? Thank you. Can I have a vote then? All those in favour, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Councillor, thank you. Okay, do we have any public questions or statements, please, Emma?
No, none received.
Thank you. Any items of urgent business?
No, I can confirm no items of urgent business.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest, Cabinet? No. Thank you. Obviously, we take members' questions now, but usually we take those as we go along. Does anyone have anything they'd like to raise now? I believe Councillor Fitch-Tillett has something she would like to say, although it's not a question as such.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I would just like to give my enormous thanks to the huge effort from some members of this council, and in particular our officer team and those of Norfolk County Council who went and helped with the clear up last weekend after the sandstorm in Walcott. I'd like those recorded, please.
Thank you very much, and I think we should also pass on our thanks to all those officers who helped with clearing trees and are still working to clear trees in some of our country parks and make them safe for our visitors to enjoy again, because it is a big operation. We sustained quite a lot of damage during that storm, so it's ongoing. So thank you to all those who have taken part in some way or other. Okay, recommendations from Cabinet working parties. Councillor Brown, do we have any recommendations from the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Yes, we have a recommendation for a policy clarification. It's shown in the agenda on page 11. This is to confirm the mixture of tenures for one particular housing policy, HOU 2. I think the detail on the report is fairly self-explanatory if you follow the footnotes, this enables the local plan to progress in respect of this policy, and is a requirement for the inspection of the local plan at examination stage. And I have no hesitation in recommending the report to Cabinet. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Does anyone have any questions on this at all? It would appear not, in which case, with Councillor Brown having proposed that, do we have a seconder to accept that recommendation, please? Councillor Gay, thank you. Can I take a vote on all those in favour, please? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Overview and scrutiny matters. Councillor Dixon, do you have anything you wish to bring to our attention?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no formal recommendations to ask you to consider today. There was one matter, however, that I ought to just mention to you, and that was in connection with the North Walsham Heritage Action Zone. Although I believe it has another title, but I'm not quite sure whether there's a difference between these two. There's also the North Walsham Town Centre Public Realm Improvements. It seems to be under one or other of those two titles. The matter that was raised concerns there was an observation raised regarding the absence of measurable outcomes in connection with that project. And whilst it didn't amount to a formal recommendation, the observation was passed to the officer team, and my understanding is that Officer Young will take that forward to the working party for them to develop what one might best describe as smart objectives that ought to sit alongside that project. So along the way, we can measure its progress.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Kershaw, did you have anything as chair of that working group that you wanted to say at this time?
No, I think that's a very reasonable request, and yes, we'll take that forward. Thank you very much, Nigel.
I think it makes perfect sense, and it's at least gives everyone an idea of what we're aspiring to and what our aims and objectives are out of that project. So no, I think it's more than sensible. Okay, moving on then to the delivery plan, the reprioritisation due to COVID. So Cabinet will be aware and council members will be aware that obviously the work of this council has been severely impacted by COVID-19 and having to deploy officers to other areas. And in fact, I've just had a phone call asking for assistance from another district across the council. I'll speak to officers after this call. So I think we need to understand that we still aspire to achieve everything that we laid out in our manifesto, but we have to prioritise and take forward those that are the most urgent. And then as those get completed, we will add others to them. And I think it's that spirit and making sure people know what the priorities are and where we need to focus first. If you have too many actions and deliverables, then it's very easy to jump from one thing to the next. So we've honed it down to make it clear to everybody. If anyone has got any comments or questions, I'm very happy to take them, but I think most of the information is detailed in this report. I don't know whether our Chief Executive has any comments that he would like to make at this time.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. No, I have nothing to add to the report. It is a discussion that Cabinet have had informally in terms of the priorities, and they are therefore laid out in front of you today for your discussion or questions to Cabinet about how they were arrived at. But it is around achieving focus and balancing the pressures on the organisation as we have responded to COVID over the past 6 months and anticipate having to do so again in the next 6 months. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Cushing, you've got your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to clarify one thing, if I may. On page 17, it says that our policy relates to the in regards to equality and diversity. At the full council on last December, it was agreed that the council's diversity policy was based on that of, I think, 2006, and it was agreed that this needed to be updated. Overview and Scrutiny agreed to review that in February of this year, but neither Overview and Scrutiny Chairman nor I have heard anything since. So can you give me an update on where we are in terms of revising that policy, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Dixon, can you tell me where that work's got to with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, please?
I don't think it's with Overview and Scrutiny to do, but anyway, Councillor.
Well, it was with Overview and Scrutiny to do. It was referred by full council to Overview and Scrutiny.
Madam Chairman, if I can just clarify that, when the matter came to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in February, Overview and Scrutiny agreed that that matter should be added to its scrutiny programme, and that's what happened. But there was no expectation or there was no requirement agreed for Overview and Scrutiny to do what you might recognise as a pre-scrutiny on that policy. So that was set aside for the work, the policy to be scrutinised after it had been reviewed and revised and passed by Cabinet in the normal way that business would be processed. So I'm not aware, and there is nothing that shows that there was any requirement or any expectation for pre-scrutiny of that policy. So I think that's a matter which, that's the best I can describe. I have taken the matter up with the officer. Matt has been asking where that is, but I'm not sure that he's had an answer back yet about the progress on that. So it wasn't a matter that was agreed by scrutiny to conduct it, otherwise it would have been a pre-scrutiny exercise. So I think I can't really add much more than that.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Dixon. Well, I'm not aware of being asked about that because I thought that was work in progress. So Councillor Cushing, I will take that away as an urgent item to be reviewed and find out what's happened with that. We did have a member of the public who wrote to council who was concerned about our Holocaust wording, which I've raised with Councillor Dixon and asked for that to be reviewed at scrutiny. And I believe Councillor Mancini Boyle is taking that up on that lady's behalf. But that is only one sort of narrow aspect of the whole policy. So we'll need to see where that's going. Thank you, Councillor Cushing. Councillor Dixon, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to add a little bit to that last point that you raised, because I did look into the exact status of that recommendation in relation to the Holocaust definitions. And I noticed that full council, when it met in December, I wasn't there, but the minutes show that the international definition of anti-Semitism was accepted by full council. And the second action was for the equality and diversity policy to be reviewed, and we've just spoken about that. So my expectation would be for that motion, the acceptance of that full definition would be carried forward into the work to revise that policy, and that there would be no further need to consider that matter other than considering the equality and diversity policy in the whole, taking all aspects that would need to be covered. But so that particular matter ought to be carried over by virtue of that vote at full council.
Lovely. That's what I had hoped, and that was my understanding, but I wanted to make sure it was everybody else's understanding. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Cushing, did you have anything else?
No, other than to say, I mean, clearly it's been 10 months since we agreed that before council, so I do think it's now a matter of urgency. Do you have any idea when we can actually hear what the results of your investigations will be, please? Do you have a time frame?
Sorry, investigation.
Well, find out what is happening now in terms of actually getting this.
I will come back to you within a week and let you know what's happening, where we are, and when you can expect to see a copy of that policy.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Blatch.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an issue that hasn't been resourced during COVID, I'm afraid. The individuals that would deliver that piece of activity for the council were very instrumental or leading the council's community response in terms of vulnerable and shielding people. And so it is a capacity issue, but it hasn't been lost. It hasn't been dropped off the table. It is still an area of work that needs to be progressed in the coming months.
Thank you. Right. So, all of that said, does anybody else have any other questions that they wanted to raise? If not, I propose that we accept this paper. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kershaw, thank you very much. Can we move then to the vote, please? All those in favour? Lovely, that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So now we move to managing performance Q1 2020-21, and I think we need to recognise two things in looking at this report. The first is that this is a very new format for us, and I'd like to thank Helen Thomas for all the work that she has done in putting this together with other officers to make sure we have a new format. It's very easy for everyone to understand and read, and I think going forwards it will be a huge benefit to this council, so thank you very much. I think it's very clear. I think Helen's here this morning to answer any questions that anyone may have, but I think we need to recognise that sadly some of the measures are not where we would have liked them to have been, but obviously our friend COVID has had an impact on that at this time. But we are obviously now working to play catch up as fast as we can and move the agenda forwards. So this was for Q1. I think the other thing that's important to say is that whilst some measures that we would normally consider in this report might not be where we would have liked them to have been, officers were doing an incredible amount of other work that isn't measured and we don't have measures for on this chart. And that work was considerable and very time consuming for all concerned. So I'm very happy to take any questions on this report. Does anyone have any questions they would like to raise? Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So an observation and a question really. We're looking at the performance in Q2 and we are now in Q4. So the question is, could this not have been brought to Cabinet in August or September? So it's a little bit more timely because obviously we are now looking some months after the event. And also, because we are now sort of 17 months into the administration, and this is the first time we've actually had a comprehensive review of the performance. So that seems a little bit late as well. So what your comments are on that, please.
Thank you. I think your first question is that we've got a new system here, and it would always be that Q1 came at this time. It might be, I don't know whether anyone wants to comment on that. I mean, we always look at Q1 around now. Helen, thank you.
Yes, actually, we've just gone into Q3 rather than Q4. Q1 ends at the end of June. We're actually only reporting 1 month late on that first quarter.
And I think, would it be fair to say that a lot of that is due to the new reporting systems and getting it into a format that would be easily accessible for council and for members to read?
There were two aspects of that. One was obviously you taking the key decisions as to what was going to be in the delivery plan, and also implementing the new system to report on that. Yes, so a combination of those two things. And then of course COVID-19 came along and messed a few things up as well. So, but we are only a month late in reporting Q1.
Lovely. Thank you, Helen. Does that answer your question, Councillor Cushing?
Yes, if you're saying we're a month late, then I'm assuming going forward then the report will be a little bit more timely than this time round. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't think any of us want to be reporting late. It's just been a question of, sadly, our friend, but I'm fed up with people using that word as an excuse, and I don't want to be using it as an excuse for myself. Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning. Going back to that report, and I agree with you that it is much easier to read, and I'm sure that sometimes when reports and formats are changed,
Councillor
there's
Rest,
often...
can I just stop you a second? Would it be possible for you to put your camera on, please?
Oh, of course, sorry.
That's all right. It's just easier for us all to see you.
You really want to see me as well as hear me. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, I think it's a much easier report to read, and I know that sometimes reports and formats are changed. They're not always for the better, but I think this one is. I just have one small point that I'd like to just raise with Helen on point 2.5. It does say about during April, this required a 2-shift working pattern to be operated due to some limited capacities of IT and people working from home. We've had a lot of this, people working from home. This is the first time I've sort of read where it may impact on some of the work that the council have been trying to do and keep up to date. Would it be fair, Helen, to say that that is one of the reasons that maybe this is a month later because of this impact of people working from home? Thank you.
I can't give a response to that because I can't say whether it's had a key impact or not. I can see that Sean wants to answer that question, if I could pass it over.
Thank you, Helen. Sean.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, there was for a short period of time when COVID-19 initially hit, due to a limitation on the bandwidth that connects the home workers to the council offices, we had to initiate that shift working pattern so that there was enough bandwidth for people to do their jobs effectively. So when they were on calls to customers, etc., they weren't dropping out the calls in the middle of the call. That was addressed as fast as possible with an upgrade to the network, which took about 2 months to my recollection, because we had to order it, get it installed and configured. From that point onwards, there was no impact due to home working from that aspect in terms of day-to-day business. The actual effectiveness of working at home has been really very good since that time.
Lovely, thank you very much. And I think that's the thing, you know, we were all forced into working from home very quickly, and a lot of the IT needed different bits and pieces doing to it to affect that. But the staff, I have to say, were very adaptable and worked well doing 2 shift patterns during that time. So we have to thank them for that too, because they had to change their lives around a little bit to accommodate that for a short time. Lovely. Has anybody else got any questions on this paper? In which case I have duly proposed it. Do I have a seconder, please?
I would like to second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. In which case, can we go to the vote, please? All those in favour? Lovely, that's unanimous. Thank you. So that concludes today's business. There is no need to exclude the press and public, and there is no private business to conduct today. So thank you very much, everybody, and good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair.